This meeting is called to order. Welcome to the Wednesday, September 17th, regular meeting of the Board of Education. At this time, I'd like to ask if you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our traditional moment of silence. Thank you. Before I turn it over to the superintendent for the superintendent's report, I just wanted to make mention that this week is National Security Officers Appreciation Week. In recognition of National Security Officers Appreciation Week, we extend our sincere gratitude to our dedicated security officers. Your professionalism, vigilance, and commitment play an essential role in ensuring the safety and well-being of our Sachem community. So on behalf of the Board of Education and the administration, we thank you for your service and unwavering dedication. So thank you. At this time, we'll turn it over to Mrs. Trombetta for the Sachem Superintendent's Report.
Good evening, everyone. A bunch of us had just left Sachem East, where we were hosting an event called Blessings in a Backpack. And if you haven't heard of it, is an organization that provides meals to students that don't necessarily have food on the weekends. And this event was sponsored by many corporations that donated large amount of money. And then there was a race tonight who could pack up so many bags. And it was an amazing event to watch, to be part of. They're still going on right now. But by the end of the night, they're going to have 360 boxes that'll go out. Each box contains 12 packed bags of a nutritional meal, snacks. It has, everything that a student would need for the weekend. And that's going to be distributed. Our district receives 60 of those 360. So I want to thank Blessings in a Backpack for including us and also for helping our students on a weekly basis. Tomorrow night, we have the North National Junior Honor Society induction. So we want to congratulate those students. Next week, we are off on Tuesday and Wednesday for Rosh Hashanah. So we want to wish everyone a wonderful holiday. And then also the PSAT registration has been extended till Friday of this week. I know we have received a couple calls, but that'll be extended till Friday. So if you need to register, please do. And at this time, I'd like to invite Kevin, Marie, and Danielle up for their presentation on graduation requirements and pathways. I would like to state before they begin, they're going to go through what we are working with the state, but these have not been officially adopted, and they'll go through that. And we will be doing a presentation to the community, more of a workshop when they are to tell parents more of what's going on. So thank you.
Okay. So good evening, Cabinet, members of the board, Sachem community. As Ms. Trombetta said, Dr. Miller, our Administrator for Guidance and College and Career Counseling, Ms. O'Doherty, our Administrator for Instructional Support and Assessment for Humanities, and myself, Danielle Moran, the Administrator for Instructional Support and Assessment for STEM. We have long titles. I apologize. So tonight, we're just going to give you a very brief look at the Blue Ribbon Commission and the proposed graduation measures. Before we begin, we just like to make sure that everyone realizes while the Board of Regents has adopted things like the New York State Portrait of a Graduate, there have not yet been any amendments to diploma requirements. So until specific changes are approved by the Board of Regents, the current graduation requirements remain in effect for all public schools in New York State. So you can see there's one quote from a recent memo. If you are sent this presentation, you can actually access the live link and the entire memo. But really, most of the changes that they are proposing are going to be meaningful for our 2029 cohort, which is our current 5th grade students. So just so you have a quick understanding, Blue Ribbon Commission was made up of stakeholders, parents, educators, administrators, school support staff, members of higher education, business community members, students, and obviously the general public. And their mission was to rethink New York's graduation requirements. And they've come up with different transformations, which we're going to share right now in their proposal. So those 4 transformations is to adopt a New York State Portrait of a Graduate, which is the only thing that has been approved by the Board of Regents. And Dr. Miller will talk a little bit about that in a minute. They are looking to redefine credits and learning experiences, and that might include things like financial literacy requirement. They're looking to sunset diploma assessment requirements. Again, right now, all assessment requirements are still in place. And obviously, the last one is to move on to one New York State high school diploma. But again, it has not been approved yet. This is the overall proposed timeline. The only thing that has happened this year is the finalization of the Portrait of a Graduate and the exemptions from diploma assessment requirements for major life events. That did happen at the end of last year in June of 2025. If you see and you look forward from now until fall of 2029, they have proposed or hopeful that they'll release certain items throughout the next several years. However, we know with New York State, sometimes that does not always happen. They rely on funding just as we do. So if they don't get that funding, then things get delayed as well.
Good evening, everyone. So the New York State Portrait of a Graduate, this has been officially adopted. One of the proposed measures is to make sure that students, if these proposals go through, demonstrate competency in the New York State Portrait of a Graduate. So you see there are certain highlights of this: academically prepared, creative innovator, critical thinker, effective communicator, global citizen, and reflective and future focused. In the middle there is a focus on being culturally responsive. So, and you can see this is our version of the Portrait of the Graduate. We've been working on this for a few years. Dr. Pelletier and Mrs. Trombetta had kind of put this in place, asking us to work on this. Ms. Moran and I had co-chaired a committee to lead this, and it is a very, very close aligning. We've made some tweaks to make sure it matches up, but we had this in development before the state kind of rolled it out on their end. So this is our version, basically, of what the state is asking us to implement. Very similar, and we have started to share this out, with some of the staff. And then in terms of pathways, right now we have a lot of pathways for our students to graduate, but we've been in communication with the state specifically around the Regents exam. And the state tells us that these proposals for Regents exams, any student graduating prior to January of 2028 must continue to follow all current graduation requirements. It is proposed that if these changes go into effect after January of 2028, there will be new requirements put in place. So that includes current pathways, humanities, STEM, CTE, the current ones that exist right now. But if the proposals go into effect and are approved, the Regents will not necessarily serve as a barrier to somebody graduating. We will have alternative options such as learning experiences, internships in work-based learning, capstone projects. Ms. O'Doherty will talk in a minute. Some of the SEALs that we've incorporated here would fulfill that. Portfolios, community service, project-based learning. A lot of our work out of Mr. Larson's office with Mr. Carasillo is around incorporating some in-house CTE programs that would fulfill those requirements as well. But again, to go back January of 2028, if they're graduating prior to that, they have got to follow the current guidelines to graduate.
Good evening. So I also wanted to comment on some of the handouts that we provided to you in your folder. You might notice a one-page overview. This is sort of synthesizing down for families the graduation measure changes that are being proposed. Some of what we're trying to do is raise awareness from families that we're still beholden to the Regents exams. We don't want families to be misunderstanding that they have gone away. So for our curriculum and open house school nights, we'll be sharing this information that's in your folder here. And I have the pleasure to share information about our New York State Seal of Civic Readiness, which we have had in Sachem for 3 years, starting our 4th year. And this is an initiative that mainly comes through our social studies department. And I'm very proud of the fact that in middle school, our 8th grade students, for the most part, leave middle school with already earning 1 point towards the Seal of Civic Readiness. We felt that was very important for equity reasons. And then once they get to high school, they can choose to self-select if they would like to continue to earn the seal. I want to give a shout out to our advisors there, Ms. Heinrichs and Mr. Brazak. And you can see the projections, how it has grown exponentially over the course of the years. Our chair people have done a wonderful job of embedding that work into our curriculum. So as Dr. Miller mentioned, we're working on portfolios and capstone projects, all of the things that help the students to earn the seal to show that they are civically minded. Additionally, we have a brand new seal of biliteracy in Sachem, and I have to say in my 20 years, this is probably one of the most fulfilling things that we were able to accomplish this year. We came to Mr. Larson and said we really like to have this in Sachem and get it implemented with a very tight budget. But we were able to implement it this year with the help of 2 of our amazing interns who are now assistant principals, Ms. Carpenter and Ms. Fernandez. And we had 10 students to earn the seal of biliteracy. It was really emotional to see them present. In some of them, it's their native language. Other students earned the ability to be bilingual just through our coursework. And we had 10 students earn it, and we expect that to grow exponentially next year because we were able to collaborate with our English department. So the students earn their points in English, and then next year they just need to earn the world language credits to achieve this as well. So a small team, we're proud of our 10, and we expect that to grow as well. The seals are an important component of the Blue Ribbon Commission, so we're happy that if New York State offers them, we have them implemented in Sachem. And also in your folder, we're really proud to share some new tools for communicating with families as well as sharing information. We have a brand new grade 6 curriculum and family guide that is in full color on the website. I'm sorry, it's only in black and white for you, but we're really proud of this. It's developed in Canva, which is a really important tool for us. It can be immediately updated and translated for families in any of 50 languages. And we felt that it helps families understand those important transitional years in middle school in terms of course offerings, choices that they need to make, and helps present a clear pathway. We also have a page in there that talks about preparing students for the new graduation measures and how to be aware of the changes as they happen so often from the state. And we're proud of the family and technology supports because a lot of people rely on that for information as well. We also updated our elementary curriculum guides as well, and we're proud of those. They're all linked on our Sachem website, and we wanted to give you a little handout so you saw in your folders there as well. We use these tools to communicate as we go forward, and we have a number of people helping us on our teams we attend informational sessions from the state and our local curriculum council, and then bring that back, the information, through our curriculum advisory teams, as well as our instructional leadership team. That's the information we have as updates. We'd be happy if there's anything that you want us to share out further, but as far as we mentioned from the state, this is where we are now. We just want families to be aware that, you know, we still have measures in place that we're held accountable for.
Any questions from the board? Good stuff.
I love the family supports. This is awesome. So this is on the website too, this thingy?
Yes, I have to give a shout out. I thought I was good in Canva, but Miss Gilio, Miss Stump, and Mr. Hamilton really took it to the next level. So it is very well done, and it's posted on our website in English and Spanish. Thank you, with hyperlinks, which helps.
Thank you very much, Marie, Danielle, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank
At this time, I'd like to invite John Ganeri up to, and he's going to give us an update on our busing situation. I'll get the timeline. I'll get that whole-
Good evening. I'd like to thank the board, Superintendent Trombetta, and the rest of the administrative team for allowing me this opportunity to provide a quick update on the status of the Transportation Department. So those of you, if you're not familiar with our department, we run approximately 75 contracted big buses, 28 Sachem district big buses, and approximately 100 contracted minibuses. That's a little over 200 bus routes that are on the road every day. With that, I would like to acknowledge the entire transportation staff, including the assistant supervisor, the office assistants, the bus driver coordinators, our custodian, and our automotive technician. The dedication that this staff has to the safety of our students is exhibited to me every day, and I'm impressed by what they do for our students. Anything from making sure that students get a lost Chromebook returned or down to a water bottle returned. They do an excellent job. I'd also like to acknowledge our 35 or so district bus drivers. Again, this group is one of the best that I've worked with in years. Their dedication to the safety of our students is also incredible and I think unmatched. And I'd also like to mention that their safety record is absolutely impeccable. So kudos to them, and I appreciate their hard work. So just a little bit of background on New York State DOT inspections. All of our school buses are required to be inspected by the DOT twice every year. And New York State has established that a 90% pass rate is an acceptable rate for our school buses. And I'm proud to say that our Sachem school buses have passed with the rate of 99%. And that's just a testimony to the hard work that our automotive technician puts into our school buses and the safety of our children every day. So I'm happy to report that this year there has been improved communication between the district and our contractors. We Transport and Town Bus. They have been extremely responsive in addressing all of our needs and addressing our what we call our change spreadsheet, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a little while. This change spreadsheet has all of our additions, deletions, and corrections that take place in our department. Also, along the lines of improving communications, our bus driver coordinator noticed that we were receiving late bus requests from 5 different buildings in all different ways. They were coming to us through emails, they were coming to us through spreadsheets. And so currently, our senior office assistant is creating a Google form, and that is a way to streamline the process in which the buildings get those late bus requests over to us. So it's just one example of how we're trying to increase communications between the buildings and our staff and the contractors. And once that form is completed and we test it out, it's going to be rolled out to all of the buildings to use. With that being said, each new school year presents its own challenges and obstacles. We have been gathering data since the first day of school from all of our buildings on those buses that have been arriving late in the morning and also arriving late in the afternoon. We Transport and Town Bus, and along with our staff, have been actively working on getting all of those buses to arrive on time. And it is my goal to have no student miss any instructional time or related services at all for the school year. Also, there's still a handful of bus routes that need to be addressed. And like I said, we are actively working on getting all of those corrected. Another challenge has been the extraordinary amount of changes that has taken place since the start of school. We have gotten 90 additions to our minibuses for this new school year already. We've gotten 10 changes to IEP requirements, over 20 address changes, and over 13 changes in students' school of attendance. With that being said, The bus company has been very responsive, and they're keeping up with these changes as best they can. When I looked this morning, they were current up to yesterday, addressing all of these additions, deletions, and corrections. Another one of the challenges that we've been hearing from the bus drivers is a lot of construction work going on in the district, especially down in the station yards area. There's been complete road closures. We've had a couple of gated communities that have been closed to our buses due to paving projects and milling projects. So that poses another challenge, which also increases school bus time, attributing to some latenesses. We received many phone calls from parents. We're up to about, I think, 50 or so requests for school bus stop changes. Most of them cite safety as a reason. And we try to go through them one by one. We try to answer every parent to make sure that their concerns are met. But it does take time, and most of the families understand that it does take time because it takes a lot of work to figure out the paths of the school buses, where the students are standing, making sure it's safe, and so forth. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board has. And if I don't know the answer, I promise I will go back and research it and get back to you.
Thank you, John. I'll open it up to the board. Jessica.
Thank you for the update. So I'm new to this role, but I will say it's kind of alarming. I know it's better than years past to hear these parents reach out with just sheer frustration and getting their for the minibuses specifically and the special education students. It's the last thing a special needs parent should have to worry about. I think they're our most vulnerable students. So I recognize that there's a lot of work behind the scenes that I'm not familiar with, but do you feel that there's any opportunities to kind of tackle these issues not 2 weeks into the school year, but more proactively? And I know that there's a lot of last minute changes, but like looking at it retrospectively, do you think that there's anything we can do better? Anything as a board we could support you? Because while it's improved, it still seems very concerning and they are our most vulnerable students. So
Absolutely. There is always room for improvement. And we do, from even the first day of school, once we find out that buses are late, we immediately try to address it. There are many considerations that there are many things that go into changing a child's bus or changing a bus route. We've had phone calls. A parent said, I was outside working and I saw my child's bus cross on the cross street and pass by. And then my child was home 15 or 20 minutes later, and they wanted to know, why is that?
I know some parents were tracking like air tags and seeing
absolutely.
zigzagging, and
So
I'm sure
we
that's
have,
frustrating.
Numerous buses where students have special IEPs or 504 plans that require them to be first off in the afternoon and last on in the morning. We had a particular bus route with 2 of those IEP requirements. And the reason that bus passed by this student's house or nearby the house was that those IEP requirements were on 2 other students. So, and that's why. And the parents are understanding of that. But just some of the things that they don't think about that we must consider. Obviously, safety is our number one concern. When we make changes to these bus routes, we give the bus company about 3 or 4 days in order to safely make those changes, only because it would not be fair and it would not be safe to drop a change on a driver the night before that they have to start it tomorrow morning, where they might not be familiar with the child's house, or they might not, like that. So there are things that we must consider, and we're always open for suggestions, and we're always working to try to improve our bus routes and make them better and safer.
With the permission, I guess, from Ms. Trombetta and the board, is it possible for you to share that timeliness data on what you've been tracking so you can work with the vendors just to see if there's a second set of eyes that maybe could offer support?
Absolutely, sure.
Okay. And just one more thing, I'm sorry, guys. For the school bus stop changes related to safety, do we ever leverage our resources with like the Suffolk County PD for traffic mitigation strategies or crossing guards? Like, do we ever look externally to offer support for those like harder bus stops that might not be so safe?
So I believe the crossing guards, I need to be hired by the board, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
think they're hired by Suffolk County
Suffolk
PD.
County, yeah. So yeah, if stuff is brought to our attention, we obviously reach out to, number one, our bus drivers, because they're the ones that are out there with the rubber to the road, if you will. They're out there seeing what's going on. we can make the best bus routes that we think from behind a desk, but really, like I said, it's the bus drivers that are out there really doing it who can see that maybe like this bus is not going to be able to make this turn, or maybe there's this road the bus might not go down. But we try to use all our resources to make things better.
And thank you.
Good stuff.
One of the issues we saw this year that was kind of unique is that the bus drivers were talking to the parents and sometimes giving them concerning information when usually this stuff evens itself out in the first few weeks. So is there a way we could get communication to the problem routes a little bit faster, or make a policy, and I know this would be the board thing, but to have a point person who could contact the parents rather than the parents hearing from multiple drivers or two different, if they're different in the morning and the afternoon, on what the problem was? You know, because sometimes, and like, you know, my son has special needs and we've had this his whole life, but, you know, it could be a kid was having a hard time getting on the bus that delays the whole route for the rest of the afternoon. And then the driver's telling the parent, the bus, I can't make it in time, or, you know, X, Y, and Z. So is there a way we could get the information to the parent first so that we're not getting misinformation out there for when when there's a hiccup?
Sure. So bus drivers, when they come across a problem, the proper procedure is they bring it to their supervisor, their dispatcher, and then their dispatcher reaches out to us in the district and it's addressed. And we've instructed the supervisors at the bus company that they must communicate with their drivers that is the proper procedure. I think with the use of Parent Square, I think there's a way to get out communication to specific families on specific bus routes. I think that's one option that we should explore and take advantage of that platform in order to get the necessary messages to the specific families.
And we have done that this year. I know a lot of principals were reaching out directly to the families impacted via Parent Square.
Meredith?
So I just want to tell you guys, in transportation, you are appreciated. It is one of the most thankless jobs. I personally could never see driving a bus with a bunch of screaming kids while I'm trying to concentrate on the road and get everybody from point A to point B in the safest manner. So thank you to all the bus drivers and everybody in transportation.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that while I do know that there's still frustration and we still have some kinks to work out, that I know that we had, because we see a lot of the behind the scenes, and we're like the first people that everybody complains to. So I noticed a huge decrease, and I want to say thank you to our partners because they took what we had to say and they understood it. Sometimes what makes sense to us sitting here or a parent sitting at home doesn't make logistical sense. Like, you pass somebody's house to get to somebody else. Why don't you just stop? Because that child has an IEP and they have to be first on, first off, and we can't change that. So a little bit more understanding from the community. I know that's a hard thing to ask, especially when you're having these kind of issues. But just kind of sometimes put yourself in other people's shoes. I don't think that this district would ever intentionally go the wrong way or do something that would put your kids at harm. We are all about listening to you, and I think that a couple of parents did bring up some really good points, and I think you've actually listened to them, because I see the emails go back and forth. And sometimes from the point of view of the parent who is sitting there waiting for you, maybe they do have a better idea. And I want to thank you for listening to these parents. And with that said, hopefully by next week, we'll have every kink worked out. No pressure.
Good, Mike.
Yeah, John, thank you for coming. And I'm glad you brought up some of the things that go on in the early days of the school district, because I think people have to realize it's a tremendous logistical challenge every day. We're 9 days in and you've had 90 changes already, right? That's what you mentioned, besides all the other issues. And I do, we do get a lot of emails, but I will echo what Meredith said. Certainly there's a lot less this year than there have been in the past, which is a testament to you and Michelle and the work that you did with We Transport during the summer. And we get the email. I try to read every one, and I see they go back and forth. And the underlying theme I think I see is, the parents just want to know they're being heard. I appreciate that Michelle calls, or that you call, and that we're letting them know that we know of the issue. Again, things, and I'm sure the parents realize too that, part of the responsibility is to make sure their kid is ready on time for the bus to show up. But there are other things that in no one's control, like you said, the paving projects that could hold us up. So I think just I think the parents just need to know that we hear them. And I appreciate that you guys are doing that, so that they know that we are understanding of the problem. And then they can also hear our side too. Things like Meredith mentioned, sometimes they just don't know that we can't stop there because we have to get this child off the bus first. So again, appreciate everything you're doing. It's a tremendous logistical challenge. The community needs to hear that. I'm sure they realize it. We're a huge school district with a lot of kids, and we're running, what'd you say, 200 routes a day, right? So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Rob? Oh, and Sabrina.
John, thank you for coming out. I know that last year was a disaster, and we got a lot of emails. This year, we're still getting emails, but there's far less than we received. You had mentioned that town has been more receptive, in handling the situation, which is good to hear, because we had him here a couple of times last year at the meeting, and we had promises, and next week would be a disaster. You had mentioned that, in handling, I'd written a question down as to the turnaround as to resolving issues. And I think you answered the question. You give town 4 days. Okay, 4 days for a parent of a special needs kid and a special needs kid themselves could feel like an eternity. All right. How we thought about saying to the town, look, we don't want to change it overnight because we want to make sure that that change doesn't impact another student, because some of the emails we're getting is, my son was being picked up at 6:30, and my son's being picked up at 7:10. I don't know when my son, he's waiting at the door. So, is it possible to streamline that process so it's not 4 days and maybe it's 2 days, and then with communication, analyze that one change, how is it going to affect other kids on the bus? Is there going to be a 30-minute change, and when that kid gets picked up, if they're getting picked up at 7:10, now they have to be out there at 6:30 in the morning. Is that possible to say, listen, 4 days, we got to do it sooner than that? Because if it happens on a Wednesday, you're talking about 4 days for business days next week. Is there any way of streamlining that to resolve it faster? That's one question I have.
Sure, we can absolutely look into streamlining it. Like I said, safety is the biggest factor, and giving the bus driver a chance to fit that particular bus stop into his or her bus route. We might have to change the order and so forth, but I can definitely have a conversation with we and town and to see if we can streamline that a little bit more.
Okay. And the other question I have is that we're getting emails this year that are a little bit different than years past. And I'm seeing emails where people have concerns about the number of kids on the bus. We find that we're finding more kids on a particular minibus than we normally do, and how we're addressing that issue.
Normally, we'd like to have no more than 9 or 10 students on a minibus, only because it's difficult for the bus driver and bus monitor to maybe manage all the behaviors. However, during the school year, we've added a bunch more routes. For example, the Sachem Academy, we went from having 2 buses to up to 7 buses. There was a couple of other schools where we had to increase the number of minibuses that we were using, and we transport town bus. We're in the process of hiring drivers, so they did not have everybody on board yet. So that's why some of the consolidation needed to happen for the beginning of school. They are currently onboarding additional personnel. And once those additional personnel are on board, we do plan on splitting a few of those minibuses that do have more students on board than we would like.
And just do you find that there's more this year on average on a bus, or is it pretty much the same as previous years? Do we normally have 8 or 9 on a minibus?
I believe so, yes.
That's pretty normal.
Correct.
All right, great. Thank you.
Sabrina?
Just understand, when we contract do we contract a certain amount of buses, or are we saying this is kind of what we have to transport, and we kind of get a deal that this is what we're paying to transport, or every time we have to split a route and add more buses, are we adding on a cost every single time we add?
We're adding on costs, but most of it's contractual. So when we work with We in Town, John and his team, they take a look at our students and locations, geography, and they work together. I know this year in particular, Joni went to their office and worked with them on their routes, because having her experience of being here and knowing how things work, she was able to kind of condense some of their routes. So I'll let Michelle give further detail on that. But it is something that they partner with and work together to make sure. So I think the biggest issue, like John had said, with having the more students on the bus than we wanted on our minis was because they were short the drivers.
Well, because you're getting to the answer in my question, because I'm just saying every year it's a million times better this year, but every year I hear the same thing where we have to split routes. You would think like maybe year to year, we're kind of getting an idea of the type of students, the distance, and how long it would take. That putting 9 students on a bus, why don't we just start with the 6 instead of starting with the 9 and then alleviate some of that? Because I mean, as a working parent, I have to get to work at a certain time. Like I'm not someone who can go into work 2 hours late. That to get my kid on a bus, if it's coming 2 hours late, what am I supposed to do? Either I'm calling in or my kid's staying home. I'm calling family members. It really is such a, I think when it's not happening to you, it's like, oh, no big deal. We'll work it out. But when you're the person who's being affected, it affects your whole life, and it affects not just the child, but also the families that are putting the kids on the bus. So I'm just saying, are we looking at it year to year and saying, okay, we have these kids with certain situations and this distance that we have to travel, putting 9 kids on the bus would not be better, and doing that first prior to school starting to have that smooth start instead of.
I'll just jump in, and John can maybe add to that. The difference between our van routes and the big bus routes, they don't change very much from year to year. The van routes, we start brand new every single year. It's not like we can look at the routes that we ran last year and say, okay, by June, these were working great. We're going to start with those routes again, because the students are all in different schools. So we have to start from scratch every year and work with what we know we have to build those routes. And then we have to see how they go, because like I said, year to year, it's completely different. And when we start the planning on the routes, we met with We Transport weekly throughout the summer. The actual roster of students doesn't go to the contractor until mid-August. And we always say, well, can't we get them to them a little bit earlier so they have a little bit more time to work on the routes? But we can't, because OSS is still finalizing IEPs. So the earlier they get it, the more changes that are going to happen. So we usually use that like August 14th date as all right, we're going to start with this. We'll take changes up until the next 2 weeks to the end of August, and then we have to stop. And those have to be the routes for the start of school, just because if you keep making those changes every single day, you are affecting things down the line. And then when you get students that get added to a route, all right, so we had a route that started with 7 or 8 students, and now 3 more students got added to it. So now we have to put those students on that van and see how it's going to run, and then say, okay, this isn't working. We have to split it. It's step by step. It's a process.
I was just wondering that, I understand that we want to be efficient, but we also want to make sure that we're not, spending extra money on buses that could be applied to other places. But if there was a cost associated, but if we can have those 3 or 4 more buses to start with, would that make a difference? But I understand every year it's a whole new
It's
group of
completely
kids,
different.
I get it. So I'm
And the
just trying to wrap my head.
transportation department, they are reviewing those routes. It's not like once the next couple of weeks when everything gets smoothed out, we go, okay, we're done. No, because those changes are happening throughout the year. And John and Joan will look at those routes and say, okay, we've added X number of students. Are these routes the most efficient now? Where can we make some changes? This student isn't coming on the van anymore. Their mom is driving them. So now we have another space. That's an ongoing process.
And one of the things we implemented this year was a Google Doc for all the buildings. So instead of trying to communicate and keep track of all the different emails, who's getting back to who, it's one document broken down by each building. And we have a note area, and it's set. We put in who spoke to who on the date and the progress, the status of it. Is this still an ongoing thing? So Michelle and John and their team have been looking at it, going back, okay, checking in with parents. How are we? How was the bus today? Because then we're going to check it off as, okay, complete, and keep working on the ones that aren't. So that's been very helpful.
Steph?
Of the 90 editions, was that after the 14th of August? And second part B of that, were they predominantly minivan?
Yes, they were all minibus related.
That's incredible. And that was after August 14th?
Correct.
After August 27th.
After August 27th? Yikes. Okay, thanks.
Mike?
All right, so Stephanie was going, my first question was, how many students do we transport by minibus? Do we know the number?
About 1,200? Yeah, I guess about 1,200. We have, I think, almost 100 minibus routes.
And you had 90 changes to minibus routes since the 27th.
Correct.
So almost like a 8 or 9% delta change just in the first 7 days.
Yes.
I mean, that's why I said it's a logistical challenge that they can't, it's like a living, working process that they have to deal with, right? If one particular change could throw a whole bus route out, and I know these come from the IEPs I'm gathering, so you have no choice but to fulfill it, right? So we just got to allow them to do their thing and, work them as they come up, right? So we appreciate everything. Thank you.
Meredith?
One of the things that we've all been saying that Sachem needs to get better at is communication. And I think that a lot of things in this entire world can come back to miscommunication, or the lack of information. And I think maybe if at our first board meeting of the year every year, if maybe we could have something stating, I mean, on one hand, you're like, well, it's really nobody's business. But on the other hand, if we had, like, there's probably people who have minibus issues right now who are sitting home and saying, wow, 90 changes from the 27th to the first day of school to minibuses. That's crazy. And I think when the public has a little bit more of an understanding of what we go through or what you guys go through, because we don't go through it, I think that they might be a little bit more understanding. Now, of course, everybody wants their kid to get to school on time. We all want that. But I think maybe there'd be a little more empathy out there and fewer phone calls and things like that if maybe we communicated this, because we as a board are sitting here going, wow, 90, that's amazing. But and just another shout out to Joni, because she's great.
No, I agree with Meredith. Like, again, I'm new to this, so this gave a very good perspective for me, and will allow me when those public members reach out for questions, I could speak to that. So maybe if we could do this as like a standing agenda item earlier on in the school year, because I know it was very helpful for me, so I really appreciate it.
Okay. Patty, back to you.
Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you, John. Thank you, Patty. Okay, takes us to our student board member report. So who are we starting with, North or East? Let's go North. Okay.
All right. So at Sachem North, we've had a very good start to school, and I'd like to talk about our varsity committee, which was assembled by our principal. It takes about 2 or 3 members from each sports team, and they get together and they meet. So basically, each team picks one game, and then that game is the team that every other team has to go to. So it's a cool idea, and it's a way to get our school more, into the games and get more people in the stands. And we had a great start to that with our first football game, which was a construction theme. We handed out vests and hard hats, and we had probably around 150 kids standing in that student section cheering on the football team. And we also are starting up our class wars soon, between where each grade, our 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders are going to compete against each other in friendly games and seeing what grade can show up more to certain games. And that will be able to, in the class that wins, will get a prize, such as maybe going out to the food trucks or getting a free period. And besides that, we are preparing for homecoming, which is right around the corner. We have decided to make the theme Neon Nights, and we're excited to make that a really fun night and an even better game for everyone there.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, Mia, how are we doing at East?
We're doing very good at East. We just had our first football game last Friday. A lot of you were there. You saw our theme was Hawaiian. We had lots of beach balls throwing around the stands. I will say it probably was not as loud as North was. We got to work on that. New megaphone on the way. But our student section was still loud and proud. Everyone's painting themselves, getting very excited. And first in school, we have our club fair tomorrow, where all the honor societies and all the clubs will have an opportunity to showcase all their new events this year. Specifically student government, we're going to be promoting our homecoming gear we just sent out yesterday. And we're going to be announcing our homecoming theme, which is going to be A Night in New York City. And starting this Friday, throughout the school day, each period, we're going to have music playing in the hallways. We're calling it Music Fridays. Because especially with the cell phone ban, it's been harder on students because a lot of people like to have their AirPods in while they're walking in the hallways, a break between classes. But since we don't have that, we thought it would be a great way to have a break. And we're going to have a suggestion on Instagram so students can suggest songs throughout the day so they can listen to things they want to hear. And then also last week we had our 9/11 ceremony, which was very successful and a very touching ceremony to watch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mia. And go ahead, Patty.
Mia and Dan, how is it going with the cell phone policy? How do you guys feel it's impacting the student body?
So as much of us were not hating it, but we're not excited for it. But a lot of us are actually talking about how it's kind of nice to be in class and everyone being forced to talk to each other. Like I had a substitute teacher today, and I've never seen so many people in a class sit there and interact and actually want to talk to your neighbor because you don't have something else to do. It was actually really cool to see.
We'll overlook that part about nothing else to do with
Back in the olden days.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I haven't heard any complaints really from anyone. There hasn't been a phone taken away in any class I've been in, so it's ran pretty smooth. Yeah, so it's been good.
I'll open up to the board. Any questions for our student members?
No, just that I know I'm dealing with it with 11th and 12th graders, and there's a big upkick in the MP3 players. They're making a comeback. So I'm starting to see a lot of kids bringing just music devices so they can listen to music.
I know our students have been told, though, earbuds kind of trigger us. If we see earbuds, that means there's got to be a phone somewhere on your person, and that is against the rules. So I know right, Mia? I know Mr. Antonetti has stated that very clearly. Earbuds means where's your phone? So just be aware of that.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Great job. Okay, takes us to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion, please? Stephanie, second by Sabrina. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Visitors, Allison, any public? Okay. Section 3, business items, consent agenda A through B. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Mike, second by Matthew. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Section 4, personnel, teachers, consent agenda A through O. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Mike, second by Jessica. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Section 5, support staff, consent agenda A through K. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Mike again, second by Stephanie. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Section 6, personnel administrators, consent agenda A through B. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Matthew, second by Michael. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Section 7, contracts, consent agenda A through H. Can I have a motion? Motion by Stephanie, second by Mike. Questions or comments? Question from Rob.
Item C, which is the financial aid information night. How long does that last? How long does that speaker, address the community?
Usually it's roughly like an hour, right? Hour and a half.
Yeah. So the only thing I look at that, and I did read the contract, and it's only one school that we're approving tonight. It's Sachem North.
It's district-wide. We host it at different
How many?
buildings.
Oh, so it's
It's for all of the district, and it's hosted at Sachem North. So it's not
One
limited.
event.
Yes,
One event. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
two events. Oh, yeah, we did that last.
Is that covered under that fee? So it's a total of about 2 hours worth of time? Yeah, I just, I think moving forward, I mean, we're paying $2,000 for the person to come and present for 2 hours. Is that maybe moving forward, we look down the road and say, well, how can we do it maybe in-house? I mean, I did financial aid with my two children this year, and, the system's a lot easier today than they have been in years past. So the question is, can we do it with our own staff? I mean, we have, we might have guidance counselors that are very, very familiar with the system, and maybe, providing a stipend, okay, and maybe offering more opportunities might be something. It's just a lot of money. It's
Absolutely.
$2,000.
We can certainly look to do it in-house. I know we recently just pulled another contract for athletic recruitment night, and we're looking to outsource that to someone else, actually. Ms. Dr. Miller is working on that now, and I believe we're going to have someone from Stony Brook doing it for us.
I mean, we're moving forward next couple of years. We're really going to have to look at
Mhm.
every cent we spend.
Yeah, thanks, Patty, because I did see that one and we chatted about it. So, okay, I didn't notice it tonight. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried. Section 8, consent agenda A through C. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Stephanie, second by Sabrina. Questions or comments? All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried. And just Allison, that was for the committee members. So I assume they've all been notified, or will notification go out?
Yes, so everyone was notified when they accepted their position that we
So-
would be approving them this evening,
Perfect.
and then they will be hearing, in the near future from the chairperson or about
the-
potential meeting dates.
Perfect, thank you. Okay. Section 9, field trips. Could I have a motion, please? Motion by Stephanie, second by Mike. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Section 10, Committee on Special Education, consent agenda A through B. Can I have a motion? Motion by Matthew, second by Rob. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Section 11, monthly reports. I think we answered, I don't know, has any of the committees met, Mike, in terms of audit? Oh, did you have? Okay, legislative?
Legislative.
Let's go with legislative.
We have a meeting on Monday night at 7:30 via Zoom. We're going to just meet for the first time so we can put everything together and see who wants to be the chairperson. We're going to have 2 chair people and then a secretary. So that is going to be Monday at 7:30. And I think pretty much everybody on the committee responded that they can make it except for one, right?
Okay, thank you. Just one question, Mike, first. On the legislative, do we have a charge yet? I don't think the board has talked about a charge officially, or do you want to have that conversation?
No, we wanted you to give us a charge because one is going to be the school security bill.
The one that Mr.
Yeah,
Kiernan's
'cause
been
that's
working on,
still
right?
churning.
Okay, yep.
And then we need another charge to start with for the other half of the committee that's going to be working on that, because how we did it for the past couple of years is we had
There's
that
multiple
working
streams we
separate.
need.
Yeah, just
so it's
because it
fine.
was more efficient.
Okay.
So if we could, do we discuss the charge now?
What do we want to do with during board discussion items, or
I don't know.
get Steph, Sabrina?
It's okay. When maybe you guys meet, get a feel
feel.
of what, I mean, we do have a whole list of things, right, that we've been keeping track of, but maybe get a feel of, where the people on it or where they think we should maybe go first, bring it back
Perfect.
to us, and then we could kind of say, this is what we would like to focus on.
I think Meredith and I discussed this. I think we want something to start with, and then they're always welcome to give input, but we have some dire issues, and this could actually splinter into what's important to each person out of the 11 or 12 people we have. So is there something we can work on immediately? Because one of the things that one of the members replied with is that they were happy we were getting an early start. So we want to jump on that and start work.
What about unfunded mandates?
Go ahead, Mike.
That's what I was going to say.
Well, I was going to mention one thing they certainly we've discussed is getting legislation passed to up the pre-K amount, right? That needs to happen in order to allow us to run pre-K without burdening our general budget, right?
Okay.
So that's certainly one thing we should have them charged with trying to get done.
Yeah, it's unfunded mandates. I think we have a whole list of things, to Sabrina's point, that we've been driving. So hold on once, Meredith, and then Sabrina.
So I was going to say the unfunded mandates too, because I think that that's huge. Stephanie, I wasn't familiar with us actually having a charge about the safety bill, because I thought the bill got killed, and now I don't know what the next step
It
is.
went back, another politician picked it up.
Okay.
So something needed to be refined or whatever. They go and discuss it,
Okay.
and then they either push forward or they let it die. they let it die, and now it went back to someone else who's revamping it and then pushing it forward.
Okay, because
So-
I'm a big supporter of it, but I just don't know if our legislative committee is like, would it be any benefit to any of us if our legislative committee was spending time on that rather than like stuff that's going to directly affect us immediately? Not that the safety bill won't, but there's politicians already working on it. I'm thinking like maybe we should spend our time working on stuff that's not being worked on.
The advocacy part of it is what the legislative committee needs to do. So
Okay.
that's the issue. And because it was something we pushed, I mean, we worked really hard on this.
I know.
With bringing it through as a resolution. You were sat for hours and didn't even get recognized.
Yeah.
You too. And,
Yeah.
and to only have it come back and get recognized. So I think if we drop it now, it's kind of like, and all that work we've done for the past, 4 years? It's been a while. So
Yeah.
I would say put a little bit of the committee on it,
Okay.
see who's got a passion for it, let them do their thing. And then we work on that's why it's so important, I think, that we get another charge too.
Right.
Because I want this,
That's Sabrina and then Rob.
Because sometimes those
We kind
meetings
of-
can be a little like ping-pongy. So I was thinking
well, that
like,
was my concern.
definitely
That's
getting
what
a
I
charge
felt like
would be-
happened last year. And a lot of the committee members were given feedback last year that they felt we didn't get a bite of anything. So if we could do it differently now and go full steam ahead, I would love to.
Sabrina and then Rob.
I would love to see Sachem planning a trip up to Albany. I think last year we wanted to do that, and it kind of fell by the side because it was kind of just, we're going to do it and the dates were falling. I think if we start thinking about it now and planning it now and get people on buses up there because they need to hear us and hear us loud, because we don't need a magic ball to know that we're going to be in the same, if not worse, predicament that we were last year. And I think we need to be proactive instead of reactive. And one of the things is we need to go up there as a community, the board, the SCTA, all of our Sachem community, everybody needs to put themselves out there and let Albany know that they need to support us and fund us properly so we can give the best education possible. So I would love that to maybe start being planned so that it's not this last minute and then we don't end up doing it.
If I could jump in,
That-
I would
yeah.
love to plan that. We wanted to do it last year and we were always too late.
Yeah.
Like we felt like we were chasing it. This year, if we start strong, we could start planning immediately.
Yep.
I think that's great.
Rob and then Mike.
Something that's kind of revived itself that we kind of took a strong stance against was the battery storage facilities. Okay. And, as you may or may not know, that there's been a freeze on the actual building of the wind turbines in the water, which is going to delay that whole process. I know that I received, I think administration received a letter from Fran Lunati, who's been kind of spearheading this. And they actually are inviting some really, really important people to a meeting at the Holbrook Fire Department on October 29th. It might be something that, in the very near future, that if this whole process can be delayed, maybe getting our legislative committee on board with really school safety, right? They're building that within a mile of five different schools, it's including elementary schools and middle schools. Is that something that we want to charge the committee with looking at, and at least going to the meeting and getting educated and maybe coming back and what can we do, to maybe kind of, we have different people involved. I mean, Lee Zeldin is a part of, EPA, and he's a Long Islander. So, maybe there's a chance that we put a stop to that and look to protect our students from things like fires that could occur and whatnot. Just a suggestion.
Yep. It's a good one. Go ahead, Mike.
So one thing we maybe want to charge them with doing is having regularly meeting with our local elected state officials, right? Particularly when it comes to unfunded mandates, because the real question is not just how much the unfunded mandates cost us, but there's also the question of the amount of state aid we get, right? They give us $960,000, but they ask for $2 million more, right? So those kind of things need to be bubbled up, and let's face it, next year's this budget's going to be front and center because 2026 November is a gubernatorial election. So I'm not going to be surprised if all of a sudden we see a whole bunch more cash, because the last thing she really wants is us up there picketing and rioting about the fact that we're cutting program because we're not getting adequate state aid. So I think we need to get on top of that. So maybe the legislative committee could start making appointments with Doug and Wyke and Dean Murray, and start showing them, hey, this is what you guys are requiring us to pay you, and this is all we're getting back. So you're burdening our property taxes, in these unfunded mandates, right?
So just a quick question to that point, right? Because we've spoken to Doug about this and some of the electeds, and some of the advice was you've got to get outside of our elected officials, right? So if they can identify who's on the education committee, who else could we be speaking to? There's probably upstate people, or right? I think we've got to expand our scope a little bit, right? They don't understand our issues, and we've got to get those front and center.
One of the ways we've been passive asking for help, I think we need to shift it to more demands of bullet aid, stuff like that we used to see in the past that for some reason passes us over. So I think if we get a little bit more together, instead of being so nice, and it's not to be mean, but have a list of, this is what we have, this is what we need, this is what we're going to lose. You know what I mean? Because in the past, we've kind of tried to kumbaya and work together, and it's not productive. So I agree with that. And if we can go higher up the chain, why not? You know what I mean? Include them all, because they're all doing this to us, right? Our community is the one that's getting shafted, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
I know it was mentioned about the reallocation of funds for UPK, but we talked about possibly bringing down Belinda Persons from NYSET, and maybe having Governor Hochul come down for a read to the student, particularly UPK, to showing them that if that allocation doesn't change, there's a potential in the future that we won't be able to run UPK. We won't be able to afford to run it. So do we want to put the committee on that? Maybe try to seek,
we sent the letter to the governor.
Yeah,
right,
we sent the
inviting her
letter to the
down.
governor. We received response back saying she's very busy. There might be someone else coming in her place if possible. But Melinda has also sent something to her through her people trying to get her down here. And Mr. Barbera was at a meeting 2 days ago where he's working with other officials to try to put some pressure on getting her down here. But we do not have a date at this time yet.
The only thing that changes that is positive press, right? That if we're potentially, Newsday will jump all over that. If we're potentially going to lose something that affects 300 or 350 small kids, okay, with this simple change in allocation, it doesn't cost the state a dime to do it. We're not asking for more money. We're just asking to give us a bigger allocation, because things have changed in 18 years when they said that allocation. So there's no cost difference to the state. But maybe that press, that positive press or negative press, however you look at it, where something might be lost if they don't, time is of the essence, and they need to be urgently have to change it, because next year we're going to be in a position where we're going to have to budget, okay, possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars to fund UPK that we just don't have. Right. We just don't have. So I mean, I think something like that. Look, you talk about bullet aid. We got an unprecedented amount of bullet aid that year. We got $660,000 because there was a threat. The board voted to cut kindergarten to halftime. And that's why we got that. Bullet aid normally is $60,000, $70,000. It's really not a lot of money, in comparison to what we really need. Right. But something like this year, what changed that was that Newsday did a big story. They did a big story on how Sachem was impacted.
To that point, the reality is,
That's
if
what
the
changes.
allocation doesn't change,
Yeah.
we're going to be hard pressed to run UPK.
Right.
But
Plain and simple.
But if it's kept a secret,
We said it
versus
last year. We're going to
printed
say it again.
printed in Newsday and having 4 million people read it, that usually gets the attention, okay, of lawmakers. So.
And we
So,
can rally.
You guys have enough now? I think that's a good.
I
pretty good
think we
list,
need
right?
another committee. Is there a legislative committee 2, 3, and 4 that we
I
can
think you got enough, Meredith, and
together?
then we'll move on.
We did the same thing last year where we were like, let's do this, let's do that, let's do that. And I think we just ping pong too much. So I personally would like to hear from the board, like, I don't know if you have to take a leaning, whatever. What is our very first priority that you want us to work on as a group? And when we've worked on that, then we can move forward. Because I think part of what makes the legislative committee great is that we are so diverse and we do have so many ideas. But part of what makes it ping pong and not really get things done is because we have so many ideas. So you guys give us
so
one charge to work on right now.
So my advice or guidance would be, let's understand who's on the committee, where are their strengths, and you guys come back to us and tell us and prioritize. We gave you a list, prioritize, tell us, and then the board, I think, can make a decision, focus here, focus there. Because you have some strong people on there with connections. So let's understand who's on the committee and let's get a plan. right?
Meredith, I would actually say give them an a la carte menu. but this is what the board said, okay? These are some short-term goals that we could achieve. These are more longer-term goals. You know, what do we want to attack in now? You know, what do
Because
we
the
wanna
bottom
do?
line is funding
Yeah.
is our issue, right? So go ahead, Steph, and then let's move on, right?
I would like to, you know, if I had to push UPK, losing UPK in this community would be absolutely devastating. It would also impact our property values because we're losing an educational part of our program. So, you know, if I had to be, you know, if I'm most concerned about that. So I wonder if we could say, let's do that and then give the a la carte menu to the other.
Yeah, so UPK
because-
should be front and center because we met
Yeah.
with Doug Smith about less than a month ago. That was right. That was the topic of conversation. He agreed to take that forward. We were supposed to meet with him tomorrow. Schedules are getting changed. We're rescheduling that now, but we're hoping to get a response from him. But he understood the issue and was going to take that forward. So put that one on the list. Sabrina?
Just even maybe with some of these issues, creating some PR towards it. I know with charter schools, a lot of the
There's another
districts
one.
are putting out how much money they're getting hit like up to the state and every year. So I think, you know, we have some PR people on that maybe can help us push out the UPK thing and just share it, and people will see it. I'm starting to see the charter school stuff from all these districts on Long Island, and like we've lost $6 million over the past 3-4 years. So I'm starting to see more of that maybe we can start to say, hey, it's just a simple allocation lift. If you're pushing that out there, people start to catch wind of it. And if it becomes enough, so maybe something like that could happen on that short goal and then work on the other things. Those are little things that could happen real quick. Can I just add curriculum council?
Yeah, please.
Email went out.
I'm happy to get off
to
legislative,
staff.
so yes.
Sorry.
It's okay.
To staff, our wonderful advisors of our curriculum council put it out. Our first meeting is October 22nd, possibly. So they're getting the staff and students to join, and we'll be meeting. All this portrait of the graduate presentation was something that we discussed and worked on, and they asked for feedback in that group. So the community did help kind of with pieces of this too. So it was
Perfect.
a great piece to it.
Thanks, Mike.
So the audit committee is trying to schedule for the 30th of September, right, at 6:30 to meet with Brent, and I guess he then will present his report at the next scheduled board meeting of October 8th.
Okay,
So.
great. Thank you. Okay, any other committee updates? Okay. Takes us to public comment. Allison, no? Thank you. Old business, section 13, demographer update. Is that you, Michelle, or?
Yep, Michelle.
Okay.
So I spoke with Mr. Haber today, and I will be speaking with him again tomorrow.
And just to set the stage, so this is the demographer update, right? For those just tuning in for the first time, we hired a demographer to look at enrollment across the district.
Enrollment,
student
attendance
population,
zones.
attendance,
Yes,
right?
yes.
With the goal of them presenting back to us, right? So
Correct.
every board meeting, we've had an update so far.
Correct. And he was present at, I believe it was the August 27th board meeting. He did his presentation, and he will be at the October 8th meeting. So just to go from where he was on August 27th, he has completed his attendance zone mapping for the district, the geocoding of his students. We will be sending him an updated student file tomorrow. That would be to capture all of our new entrants since the initial list went to him back in July over the summer. He's completed the cohort projections. They've had conversations with elementary principals. A survey did go out to our elementary principals, and they're analyzing that data. They are still reviewing the new housing projects throughout the district to see the impact on our enrollment from those new projects. And they're applying enrollment projections to their utilization tables to determine the instructional space availability at our elementary schools. They did do a tour of all of the elementary buildings. Once they finish reviewing the data from the surveys, he will be touring the middle schools and starting the analysis for that and looking at feeder patterns of our schools. And like I said, he will be present at the October 8th board meeting.
Thank you. And from your perspective, he's on schedule, on target,
He seems to be ahead of schedule.
ahead of schedule?
Yes,
Even better.
yes.
Okay. Questions, Mike?
So Michelle, just so I'm trying, when he was here, one of the things I felt was actually the most important thing he could do in the first part of this puzzle is, and I hope he has this by the 8th, is he believed that he would have a as will be projection of if we change nothing, here's what's going to happen to your schools. If we didn't change a thing, right? He said that I can show you what the schools would look like in 5 years and what the utilization would look like, I guess, in 10 years, more accurate to 5. But I think that's what we really want to see, right? We want to know, this is, if we do nothing, this is where we're going to end up based on these projections and using these methodologies. That's the driver of going to be to help us decide, okay, how do we move forward? What are we changing? How do we change you? And what do we do to make utilization higher and more efficient, right? So is that, or maybe you have to check, is he going to present that at the next board meeting when he comes?
I think he's going to be presenting his initial findings. So I am speaking with him tomorrow. So I will make sure that is part of the presentation on the 8th.
Because I'm not sure myself what that's going to look like. I'm thinking he's going to say to us, based on all the research, all the data you gave me, all the research I did, and what's going on in your district, Hiawatha would be at this level, Cayuga would be at this level, East would be at this level.
Yeah, in essence, Mike, you asking for like a do nothing scenario. If things progress
right,
as is,
right?
you
Otherwise,
don't do anything, what's going to happen?
That's right. Because that's going to be your justification to make changes, right? You want to see that this utilization is so low or this utilization is so skewed that you need to make changes.
I believe that's his starting point.
Right.
Like
right.
once he gets the student file and he codes everybody to the current attendance zones, I believe that's the starting point. Here's where you are now and project that out. And then he's going to have recommendations of, and I believe he said it the last time, like if not recommending to close a school, why you're not recommending that would be the best choice of a school. And if you are recommending a building, why he feels, whether it's, he's going to look at elementary schools, he's going to look at the middle schools, he's going to look at feeder patterns. And then I believe the leaving it as is part of that, but I will verify that tomorrow.
Because I think that's the justification we're going to need for the community to explain to the community why we're doing, like, why are you closing this school? Well, because if we did nothing, this is what would happen, right? So I just want to make sure that's going to be our starting point, right? That's basically our starting point. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Michelle? Okay. Thank you, Michelle. Okay. Takes us to board discussion items. I think we've got 2 out there. NYSBA and the Ronkonkoma Historical Society. So with NYSBA, I think we've been kicking this around quite a while. Are we joining? Are we not joining? I think Allison provided us information. Is there any other information that administration is providing us to make a decision on this, or I'll open it to the board for questions?
Just clarification, because we didn't join July 1st, right? And potentially we'd be joining October 1st, they prorated the rates. Okay, where are they at right now?
So they decided that for both the Nassau Suffolk School Boards Association and then the New York State School Boards Association, that they would essentially be reducing our annual payment by taking those 5 months off. So that's the only discount per se that they would be able to offer us because their bylaws don't allow for a discounted rate.
And what are those numbers? Do you have more?
Nassau Suffolk School Boards is, I believe, $4,600 for the full year. So that would be less 5 months. And then the New York State is 13 and change. So I believe that, overall it would be
About $5,500 less.
Yeah.
About 10,200, 10,300.
Yeah, there would not be a discount for the policy
7 months, 'cause
services
they're taking
for
5
New York
months
State,
off.
but the overall annual membership would be
Because
discounted.
I've got, so we're talking about almost 17,000, I think the number was, right? So you prorated, it's for 7 months, it's about $10,300 for the year. So the board
Correct.
has to make a decision because we've been talking about this now for quite a while. So, Ed, do we take a leaning on something like this, or do we voting on it, or maybe you can just help guide me?
Well, if you're not gonna, I mean, I think you should have a discussion, and then to the extent that you're not going to join, there's no need for a vote.
Right.
If you were going to join, that would require a form of resolution,
Okay.
which I could draft.
Okay. Any other discussion points? Steph?
So you're right. The math is around 10,000 for both, compared to what about 19,000 for 18 and change for both. So they gave us, the 5 months off, which brings it down to a little over 10.
Meredith?
I'm probably the unpopular opinion, but I was on this board when we were members and I was on this board when we weren't members. And personally, I didn't see a change. And I certainly didn't see a $19,000 change or a $10,000 change. Yes, we get discounts on things that we attend, and there are things that we absolutely have to attend. We just approved 2 for Allison tonight. But the discount that we're receiving does not outweigh the fees that we're paying. And I just personally think that we have a lot more money, a lot more things for our children to spend this money on. And if anybody on the board wants to attend something, please don't feel that just because I feel like we shouldn't be members doesn't mean you shouldn't attend, because they do have some really great things for you guys to attend. We just pay a little bit more, but we don't pay 10 grand more.
Mike?
So right now, there is a budget line item for the full amount, right, Michelle? So there is $17,000 in the budget right now that was allocated for this if we had chose to join. I have to tell you, I could not vote to join with a clear conscience, much like Meredith did. I'd much rather take that $17,000 right now and give a third to North, give a third to East, and a sixth and sixth to the middle schools to maybe run another club, run another event. I just don't see it. Meredith just said, we just approved $585 for Allison to go. She can go to the thing she needs to go, and we won't spend $17,000. So I couldn't, with a clear conscience right now, knowing what we're going to be going through to spend that money there.
Okay. Anybody else? So we'll take a leaning. So Sabrina?
Just one
Go ahead,
thing
Ron.
I understand where we're coming from. We're in tough times, but once again, I'll say it the same thing I said a couple weeks ago. They advocate, for change in education law. They advocate for change in foundation aid, changes. They're big advocates. And we're the only district on Long Island that's not a member. So yes, we do benefit from those changes, whatever successes they have. We do benefit, but we're not paying, to be part of an organization that's helping us. Now, several years ago, I went to a school board convention. I want to say it was probably 2008, 2009. I went with a school board member, John Siegel, and I ran into one of the vendors there, it was school aid specialist, and we had no idea that they even existed. All right, and took their cards, we took the information, we brought it back to Bruce Singer, and said, look, there's no charge to the district. They're going to analyze all of our school aid to see what we did not get reimbursement on. Okay. And we brought them in. Okay. And they actually found additional aid that probably exceeded $10,000. Okay. Just because we found this company at that convention. And not only did we use them that 1 year, but we used them for several years after that. And we still use them. Okay. And this was a company that we found at the NISBA convention, okay, and brought the information back. So there are benefits. There are benefits to being there. Had we not been there, we maybe never found that company. So I just think that the advocating that they do on behalf of public schools and fighting charter schools and looking to try and get additional state aid, okay, to the school districts to fund certain things, unfunded mandates. I think there's an advantage to doing it. I really do. And I mean, we just got the price down from $17,000 or $18,000 to right around $10,000. So there is an advantage to doing it. I mean, I just showed you, had we not gone to that, we never would have found that company. So, and we still use them, and they do save us money every year. All right. So, I mean, that's I would be in favor of
Okay,
supporting.
so Robin put you as a yes. Dennis?
So I understand what you're saying, Rob, totally. So in the 5 months that we haven't paid for it, what have they done for us? What have they done in general in the last 5 months? What have we seen NISBA do for the school districts that have paid? Because I haven't seen anything for them as well. And that's, I think some of the thing is we can still go to those things. But it's, again, we're paying $500 for Allison to go somewhere. If we join for 17, it might cost us $400 or $300. It's not like you go for free still. We are still paying, and we're saying we should still go to these events. We should, and that's something that's fine. We can go spend 10 grand. But if we spend 10 grand plus 19,000, now we're at $30,000. So I'm okay with going to things, or we should go to those events, but let's just pay for them, pay the full gamut. Cause I just don't see that we've spent in the last year, you guys weren't in it. What'd you spend? You know, like what'd you guys spend and go to events the year before when you guys were part of it and the year after when you weren't? Right. But the year before, what'd you spend when you were part of NYSBA? How many people went to events?
So
You know,
where are
like
you
4 or
leaning?
5?
Where are you leaning, Dennis? As a no?
No.
Okay. Let me just keep going around. So Steph?
Can I say something?
Yeah. Go ahead.
One of the things that NYSBA provides that none of us take advantage of, which is shameful, are not only free trainings, but we can consult with them and ask when we have questions, especially being new board members. I use them as a resource constantly. I don't understand how none of us contact them. My first 2 years on the board, I was talking to NYSBA representatives on the regular because I didn't want to tie up our attorney's time and we were paying for it. The convention alone, I feel, is worth every single penny for us to go to because they showed us things that other school districts are doing, advocacies that are happening throughout the state. You know, we want to have a bigger voice, and we're taking one of the biggest advocacy organizations and just saying we don't need it. And we're going into a massive financial crisis. So I've said this till I was blue in the face, so I don't want to keep harping on it, but you know, shame on us for not taking the opportunities that they offer, because we expect our teachers to do professional development. We expect our administrators to do professional development. And then we show up and say they're not worth anything, but yet we haven't taken advantage of any of it. And then add in the fact that when we're in a crisis financially, we feel shamed to even want to go. I'm not going to convention this year because I'm not going to spend the money because you guys have made it seem like it's not worth it.
It's cheaper.
And I'll look like it's not cheaper. It's
cheaper for
it's
you
not
to go to the
cheaper.
convention without
If
us
we
joining.
all decided to take advantage of every single thing that they
cheaper.
offer, it's not. That's misinformation, especially with
So,
getting
yeah.
it prorated.
All right. So,
So
let's-
I'm a yes, but
Okay.
only because I feel that there's a lot of value that none of us take advantage of.
Rob, you wanted to say one more comment? and then-
Just one thing, if the board would you consider, if we can't join both, maybe we could join one, you know, maybe consider joining just maybe the National School Board Association, or maybe just Nassau Suffolk School Board Association. But I think just to be in there and have that, you know, the ability to give them a call and get information. They do provide us with a lot. They do provide Allison with a lot of information that she utilizes as well, you know. So, you know, rather than throwing everything out, maybe, you know, if the board does want to consider both, maybe consider one.
Sabrina?
I just want to say this respectfully, to say that we're not keeping up on our professional development. You don't know what I'm doing on my free time. You don't know what I'm reading, how much time I dedicate to this
I
board.
didn't say at all. I
But you-
said
you-
in this. I said
Please
in
don't
this.
interrupt me.
But no,
I
but
ha-
I
no,
want
I
to
have-
clarify because I don't know what you do in your professional.
But
Can
I have
talking
the
about?
Yeah, Sabrina's got the floor.
No, I got it.
Yeah,
But I was
Sabrina's
talking
got-
about NYSBA and
All right, let
Nassau
Sabrina
Suffolk
I
address.
understand, but you just said it was shameful that we are not keeping up with our professional development, and you don't know what we are doing personally, what webinars we are following, whether they're NYSBA or not, what reading we're doing on our private time, who we're speaking to personally on a regular basis. So yes, I get what you're saying with you want us to continue at NYSBA, but to say that we're not keeping up and doing our service as board members and staying up to date and doing what we're supposed to be doing, I think that's what I just heard you say personally, and I want to put on record that I definitely keep up to date with what I need to keep up with to be the best
Okay.
board
board member and trustee for this
And-
district.
and- yeah, hold on.
Can I
And it's-
just? But
yeah.
it's a strong accusation because we're talking about a specific advocacy group. So I would never speak on behalf of what she does in her private time.
Okay.
I assume that because I do the same. But we're talking about joining a huge advocacy group that we're just going to throw to the wayside. I'm talking in context with this.
Okay. So let's just go around. Jessica, what's your thoughts?
I appreciate Stephanie's passion, but I, in good conscience, can't support that. I am, as a new trustee, committed to developing myself and have invested significant time and will potentially take everyone up on ad lib conferences. But, you know, like elementary schools don't have any clubs, and I can't in good conscience spend that when the students would benefit. But I am committed to developing myself as a new trustee.
Yep. Thank you. Matthew?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's saying that it's not helpful entities, but and it's going to be there when we're in a better situation, when we're in a better place. So right now, I would say no.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 no's, 2 yeses. I like what Mike said, because I think we need to put that dollars back into clubs and bring it back to the students. So I'm going to be a no. So it sounds like we're not going to be joining this year. We always have the option next year. That's why I think, Mike, we put that new policy in place on an annual basis. We're going to review it. So next year, we'll see what our financial situation is. We still can advocate, right? I think the legislative committee, you guys have a list of stuff to do. So let's take that shot, Mike.
So with that, I would ask Michelle and Patty and Andy, let's do a transfer. You tell us where that could be best put to use to give our kids out. I mean, I didn't even think, but Jessica mentioned that the elementary kids have no clubs. If that's something you guys think that's where that money would be best spent, let us know, and let's do that.
Okay, great. Okay, next item, Ronkonkoma Historical Society. Allison sent us information. We had a community member come here and present or speak to us about that. Allison, are you going to take us through this real quick, or?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So
Thank you.
I put together some of the information that the two ladies had submitted to us at our last meeting. They spoke about this education law that would allow for historical societies to place on our ballot a proposition to help raise funds to support their society. So this is just kind of a summary of what that law entails, about having a separate proposition on our ballot that would allow the funds to be raised to support their society, whether it's for their upkeep of their museum, their any type of structural buildings that they have, or for presentations for the community. So that just kind of summarizes that law. This would be a sample proposition of what they were basically looking for that would appear on our ballot. They had gave us the number of $90,000 to support the maintenance and capital improvements of their historical museums and the contents. So a history within Long Island of previous districts that have gone ahead and had propositions appear on their ballots. Rocky Point, West Hampton Beach, and Sag Harbor were all districts that had a proposition on their ballot generating funds for their historical societies. You can see there the 3 school districts that they did have this proposition pass and the amounts that were assisted to their societies. And then on the flip side, this is some of the concerns. There was some information that was shared with our districts from our law firms and New York State as far as what the concerns are for doing this. Obviously, creating additional burden on the taxpayers by increasing the funds on those tax bills, creating ballot clutter or confusion with the additional propositions. The $3 approximate cost per household would be for residents across the board, no matter what township you reside in. So this had been brought to us by Lake Ronkonkoma and Farmingville. But if you are a resident, say, of Lake Grove, it would still appear on your tax bill. Concern about any type of partisan interest of that historical society, any potential creating a no vote mentality. So there are individuals out there that would, be turned off by the multiple propositions and just vote no across the board. And then just the potential to dilute the focus of the issues that are directly impacting us as a district. So those were some of the concerns that were raised and questions in neighboring districts that were brought to our attention that we wanted to, share both sides of it with you.
Thank you, Allison. And so the ask here is that this organization wants to put this on our ballot right? Where they would rate, so the taxpayers would have to vote on. It's $3 per household, let's say.
They
No
were
matter if you're in
saying
Holbrook,
approximate.
Holtzville, or Lake Grove, who aren't part of this. But it's going towards the Ronkonkoma Historical Society.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Let me throw it out to the board members for discussion. Matthew?
Would this cost the district any money besides the tax?
Essentially, no, because we are still holding our May vote like we always do. The ballot is not necessarily changing greatly. It's not a separate ballot. It would appear on our ballot that will already be existing. So it would not be costing us more money to do. It's essentially saving the cost of that burden on the Historical Society.
Okay. Meredith and then Stephanie.
So we're comprised of about 5 towns in our district, right? And 2 of those towns would directly benefit from the $3 per household. It would be if we vote once and we vote yes, then annually, will we have to revote, or is it just always that $3?
No, we would, if they wish to do this annually, it would then be another proposition each year.
And one of the reasons that these ladies who came and presented to us wanted us to partake in this is because the societies that they run are located within our school district, and that they would then be able to further educate our own children, regardless of which of our 5 towns they came from, on the Ronkonkoma and Farmingville towns, correct?
That was the information they provided us, yes.
Okay.
Steph and then Rob.
If, say our budget passes, but their proposition fails, can they ask for a revote, and would that be at our expense?
I believe they could not ask for a revote. But I can get back to you on that.
Rob?
That money, it's $3 a month, or is it $3 total?
Annual
Per
per household.
So $3 total.
Yeah, they were only asking for 90,000, I believe, for the year. Yeah.
So if this was to be approved, it wouldn't be annually. It wouldn't be $90,000 annually, okay, to maintain the upkeep of the building and the maintenance. They would have to go out with a resolution every year? Or is the
Correct.
resolution, something that's going to be indefinite?
No, they
90,000.
would have to generate a new resolution each year depending on what their request would be. Their first request to us was for an annual profit, I would say, of $90,000 to benefit their associations.
Yeah, the ultimate authority to put anything on the school district's ballot would be that of the Board of Education.
Right.
So you're not compelled to ever put anything on a ballot unless you're presented with a petition from the community.
Mike?
Yeah, I think maybe you answered my question. So this would actually be very similar to just any other proposition that we would put up, if we were trying to do a bond or something. This is just it would be like the Historical Society proposition, a one-time deal asking us for 90,000, asking the taxpayer, not us, we're not asking the Historical Society to be asking the taxpayer for $90,000 and taking advantage of the fact that we're having a vote. That's what it comes down to.
Correct.
But obviously the confusion could be they see it as a school vote, they see it as a school tax. Maybe that's going to become this what they call a no vote mentality, could drag down our other issues. So there's a concern, right?
Yeah, there's so much confusion about our votes and our budget anyway, right? So does the board have enough? Okay, Matt.
I was just thinking, if we're going to ask the taxpayers for $3 more for 90, I'd rather ask them for $3 and put it to our schools. I mean, these are tough times. No offense to the society.
I have one more question. Ronkonkoma serves Connecticut as well. So would they be putting a ballot on a referendum on a resolution on their, also if they vote yes, so are they getting money from both?
That would be up to
districts?
That would be up to Connecticut's Board of Education.
But are they asking us for all of the money they need?
They came to us, Lake Ronkonkoma and Farmingville, requesting $90,000.
I think but it's Lake Ronkonkoma, which is Sachem Ronkonkoma.
Is it all? I don't know. Some of it could even be Smithtown.
Lake Ronkonkoma, Sachem.
Sachem, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Sabrina?
If we did say no to it, do they have another route to get this? Like how else would they or they are just doing it because coming to us because we could put it out as a proposition?
They had previously approached our Sachem Public Library to do this prior to the library annual budget vote in April, and the library was hesitant to do so and kind of recommended that they come to us. So that's how they ended up here at this point.
Any other, go ahead, Meredith.
Do we currently do any curriculum with the historical societies in our schools?
At this time, I'm going to look at Mrs. O'Doherty, but my understanding is nothing that they're going field trips or anything like that, and we don't bring them in as guest speakers or anything like that.
Okay. When do they need an answer? Or when do we have to respond?
I mean, technically, the board would not have to make a decision on this until the first legal notice is placed in March of next year.
I mean, I don't want to drag it out, so if we want to take a leaning now, we can certainly do that and see where the board sits. So start at this side here, Sabrina.
I would say as of now, I'm a no.
Jess?
I'd rather see that money go into the school budget, but perhaps we could recommend maybe they reach out to the PTAs and generate some programs that, the PTAs fundraise and pay for, so they could sort of still offer some programming to the district. But I'm a no for the ballot.
Matthew?
I'm a no for the ballot, but along with Jessica was saying, maybe there's clubs at the high schools, middle schools, they could get civic hours or whatever and help raise funds to do fundraisers and stuff.
Steph?
I'm a no just because we're going into a brutal year, so I don't even know why they would want to be on our ballot right now.
Yeah. Rob?
Listen, the next couple of weeks, we're going to be having discussions about firefighters and first responders, discounts, changes that were made in the law. We're going to be talking about something that was brought to us about giving additional tax breaks to senior citizens. And when we start doing this and we start this ball rolling, okay, what happens is all of those rebates and all of those incentives fall on the rest of the taxpayers, and I think that, if this is one and then we approve the other two, that mom that's home, that single mom or that single dad who's raising a kid and struggling to make their rent are going to find it difficult. So we have to look at, I think, for everybody, and I don't think right now is the time. So I would be a no.
Sure, no. Okay. Dennis? Meredith?
I'm going to abstain. I can see positives on both sides.
Okay. And Mike?
No, I'm a no.
No, and I'm a no also, so we're going to pass on it this time, Allison. Do you want to circle back with them, or?
Yeah, I will
Okay.
reach out.
Thank you. Okay. I think that's it for current discussion items, right? Anything else, Patty? No? Future discussion items. I think Rob just sort of fed some of that stuff. Michelle, one of the things that I know you had asked us for was the board's position on those two items, right? Senior citizen tax discounts and firefighters tax discounts. When do you think you'd have information for the board to evaluate? Because I think Ms. Dysernier asked for some financial numbers. I think Mr. Buckstein did as well.
Yes, so we reached out to the 3 towns because that's not information that we have. So I reached out to Islip, Brookhaven, and Smithtown, and they understood the request, and they're going to get those figures to us. I'm hoping before this Friday's packet, so I
Okay.
can have that for this.
So once we have that, the board can take a look at the information, then we'll put that on the agenda for a future discussion item. Right?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Anything else for future discussion items?
Hey, I don't
Rob?
know if I mean, this kind of pertains to the board because it deals with funding, but the state changed the regulations on APPR, okay, and we spent a ton of money on evaluating teachers and staff and administrators that was basically not funded. So what are the changes and how are the changes going to implement cost?
So the changes haven't been official yet. We're waiting on that to come down completely for us to be able to move forward and make those changes.
It was announced, what, almost a year ago?
But we're still waiting on.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm not against,
So
this is something
the
that we-
observation process for us is it's more time because our administrators are the ones that do it.
Yeah.
So it's like we've spoken about before, that's where our time is going to on the observations. We, as soon as we
As soon
can,
as something
we would
breaks,
like, we'd certainly like to look at the APPR process. Yeah. Would you like a
Yeah,
presentation?
just as soon as something breaks. I mean,
Sure.
they released the guidelines, which has
Yep.
been months now that they announced it. I'd like to know how that's going to impact, evaluations and costs associated with, we're spending a lot of money on putting, administrators in classrooms
Mhm.
to these long, and then calculating Heidi scores and then reporting it on a computer. So the thing is, what kind of savings could we be looking at when the changes are finally introduced and to the district?
Sure.
Anything else from the board for future discussion items? Meredith?
Just a comment. This week I was blessed enough to attend the September 11th. What would you call it? Like a program? It was a memorial ceremony at North, and I know that you guys attended East, and they were beautiful. So I just wanted to give kudos to the teachers and the students, because I think that a lot of work goes into that. And it actually is, I go every year, and it's just such a beautiful moment. And it just brings like happiness to that day of sorrow. But like, I always dress in all black that day, and I always have for all these years. And all the kids were colorfully dressed, and the teachers, and it just actually brought such a nice feeling to the day. And I really just want to compliment everybody for their hard work.
Thank you. Yeah, Dennis.
Just to add on that, we were at East. Jessica and I went to East. Actually, Patty was with us, but Chris Ficcaro's team was doing live YouTube video of that. Both places at once. There was people. I mean, we had people all over the place taking pictures. The kids got, if you were able to watch it, I mean, between singing, poems, speeches, there was a lot that happened, and they said every person's name, and a lot of those kids got to learn. I mean, 2 of my kids are in East, and it's strange to me sometimes when they ask us, what's that? What is that? 9/11. It's to them, they didn't live it, So when they ask questions and you start bringing up names and they start asking questions, they learned a lot, and there was a lot going on. I mean, I think every president and vice president from each class got to speak to all the kids, and it really was a great experience.
Okay. No more future discussion items? Okay. So at this point, I need a motion to go into exec session for the purpose of discussing a particular appeal. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Jess, second by Stephanie. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Need a motion to adjourn, right? No, we're going into exec. Yeah, we'll do it back there. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Good night.